Greetings everyone. Today we continue our reading of Prabhuji's book Bhakti Yoga, the Path of Love. And in our previous meeting we began the introduction. And just to remind us, Prabhuji opens the introduction presenting in front of us our common knowledge, our beliefs, and our common perception of what love is. And at the same time, he states there that love, although we all live with the notion that we know what love is, we aspire to find this, to enjoy this incredible feeling. But Prabhuji writes that throughout all our passionate affairs and experience, very few of us ever able to touch that profound mystery of human heart. That's how he calls love. And I would read part of what we read last time, just because when Prabhuji begins to speak about the Bhakti Yoga, he shows us certain contrast. So we will continue. I will start from this part. The search for love does not usually arise from the desire to love, but from the need to be loved. Efforts are therefore focused on becoming worthy of love. This implies being attractive to another. Men seek power, wealth, fame, and recognition. Women embellish their physical appearance. In this portion, I just want to mention that although Prabhuji speaks here about our common experience, but we can find similar attitude on a spiritual path in some way. That we feel that we try to be loved. We seek to be loved. And this is an integral part of our process of evolution. We're all very familiar with the terms like Jesus loves you, or we feel so grateful once we discover this infinite love that life, existence, divinity possess for us. But here Prabhuji focused on our desire to be able to love, to experience and to touch that mystery. So Prabhuji continues from here. For Bhakti yogis, however, love is an art connected to the development and evolution of their own capacity to love. Thus, they dedicate their time and energy to mastering the skill of loving. First, its theoretical aspects, and then its practical ones. So, Prabhuji writes here that in this process of Bhakti Yoga, first we try to develop the theoretical aspects of love, and then its practical one. And I feel that the previous part, so we can ask ourselves, so what is the theory of love? What is the theoretical aspect of loving? And in my humble understanding, it's very much related to what we read today in our previous meeting. First of all, we need to understand the lay of the land. We need to understand, in a way, what love is not, or to understand that love is more than we believe for it to be. And to grasp this concept, this difference between the need, this profound need that we feel to be loved, to be accepted, and our own ability to love. And understanding that this mystery that we are all seeking, that profound mystery of human heart, lies in our own, in the development of our own ability to love. Life, God loves us infinitely, unconditionally. But we often cannot feel this love because we are unable to open our heart and to embrace it. Prabhuji often say that our difficulty is that this divine gift, everything that we searching for in life, is here at every single instant. But our biggest problem, that the only one, and we often, in the beginning of our spiritual journey, or path of religion and in life, in the same way that we seek to be loved, we seek for someone. It can be a person, it can be a spiritual master, it can be God Himself, that will give us that love, that will grant us that peace, that will shower us with His blessings. And Prabhuji say that the problem is that, and we often feel disappointed, and sometimes we feel remorse and anger and rebel against life and against God. We feel that we deserve more. We feel that the divine is so unjust with us. And Prabhuji say the problem is that the divine is giving us, life is giving us everything we need to be blissful, to be completely fulfilled in every single instant. But our hands too busy with, and our mind too busy with so many different things, and the only one that we're not there to receive this gift. And to be able to love is to develop this ability, this capacity to open our heart and to open our hands, to empty our hands, and to be able to receive all those incredible things that life wants with so much love to offer to us. And I started saying this, Prabhuji said that the problem is that we're waiting for someone, but we're the only one. We are the only ones that can give us ourselves all those gifts. That's why this ability to love, the evolution of this ability is so important. And I believe that when we speak about the theoretical aspect of loving, we speak about just that, this understanding of this difference and understanding of the importance of being able to love and to focus our efforts on ourselves. And then Prabhuji writes practical one. And the practical one is a process, and Prabhuji will continue and write it. We will not get to it today, but it's a certain process of purification. As I mentioned before, all that we search for is here in front of us, but our minds, our hands, our feelings, our emotions are too busy trying to chase the shadows and try to obtain so many different things that we feel that will in some way, that they promise us those things. And from our common experience, is for most of the people, we can spend our entire lives chasing those things. It includes money, fame, so many different possessions, people, even love of other people, even virtue in some way, knowledge, and we can still feel empty. And remember, this is at the end of the preface, where this beautiful verse from Corinthians that speaks just about that we can do so many things. We can sin as a saints, we can possess mystical power, we can receive all the admiration that the world can offer, we can move the mountains, we can sacrifice ourselves. But if we wasn't able, according to what Corinthians say, to touch that profound mystery, if we wasn't able to open our heart and to truly know what love is, with all those efforts and all those glories and all those things, we are, as Corinthians say, we bankrupt without love. And this is also related to the theoretical aspect of it. So Prabhuji continues, Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of love. Devotees aspire to a love different from the love in romance novels. It is not sentimental love that begins with sweet promises and ends in bitter disappointments, nor it emotional love that arises from psychological processes and hormonal needs. And we're going back to theoretical aspect of this practice, this path of bhakti, which is understanding. In the path of Sanatana Dharma, we have a Brahma Vidya and Yoga Vidya. So Brahma Vidya focus on the wisdom of the understanding, and the Yoga Vidya focus on practice of purifying ourselves and creating the condition that love, the self, the divine, ourself, can be revealed to us. So Prabhuji writes here that Bhakti Yogi search for love, but not this search for love in Bhakti begins from the understanding that what we know about love, what we believe to be love, is love, as Prabhuji will write later, but this is not what we're looking for. And this very thing that Prabhuji writes, and we discussed it in previous meeting, that it's uncomfortable for us to face it, and we have so many difficulties. They arise often from self-condemnation and from our struggle within us, between the animal, the beast within us, and all these urges and powerful forces of nature that dominate this part of ourselves, and something higher. This search, this path of bhakti begins when we feel this calling, and Prabhuji will write this very shortly, that it begins from this calling to love, something that we cannot really explain. This dissatisfaction, this understanding that what we experience so far, even if we've been fortunate, not everybody are, to feel something of what we call love, to feel those butterflies in the stomach, and to feel how a life change in the presence of a person. But still we feel that this is not enough. This is not what we're yearning for. And there begins the search for that love, which is not a sentimental love of the romance. And Prabhuji writes here, it begins with sweet promises and ends in bitterness. And you can feel like, come on, this is not, why to put it this way? And if we look at it honestly, yes, of course, very few people in this lifetime manage to spend their lifetime very united and in harmony and connected in more often than we wish. This kind of love begins as something very ecstatic and ends in a lot of suffering and bitterness. But there is another aspect of it. And it's very important, like we spoke, just to face it. We don't need to reject it. We don't need to be threatened by that. It's important to see it. That even if we succeed in this kind of love, even if we found our soulmate, the very nature of this fleeting reality, and if we spend many years, as many as we're blessed with, our lifetime with our sweetheart, there will be a moment of reckoning, because this physical existence, this empirical world, is in constant change. And even if the person we love didn't change and we're able to keep this flame of love throughout our life, we're going to die. This is our reality. And as painful as it sounds, and I had a first-hand experience of that in my lifetime. When you love someone so much, and when the life, this fleeting existence, takes him or her from you, you will be devastated. But if you focus on that person, if you focus on beloved and you focus on the other, not if your focus is in your heart, then even on this level, your beloved will continue with you until your last moment. But that's Prabhuji bring this here. So, and not this emotional love. And in this context, Prabhuji brought this beautiful example that when he studied his master course in Shivananda Ashram in Canada, Swami Vishnudevananda, one of his beloved Shiksha gurus, he knew Prabhuji's nature as Bhakta. And one day he stopped him and told to Prabhuji, Bhakti is not emotion, it's devotion. And Prabhuji will speak about it later, so we'll discuss it, but I just wanted to say it in the context of this. So Prabhuji said that it took him years to understand that, but it was very, very profound. And we continue here exactly what we spoke before about the focus of our love. So Prabhuji writes, for Bhakti yogis, love does not depend on external relationship. Instead, it is a state of the soul. Far from being an interaction with another person, that's how we commonly perceive love. And it's not necessarily can be person, it can be animal, it can be place, it can be... But when we live in this reality that we we discussed it before, that we perceive ourselves as a certain subject surrounded by objects. Our entire life is series of interactions. So it's very difficult often for us to see the presence of things, our own experience, not in relation to something or someone. And Prabhuji writes here, for Bhakti yogis, the love does not depend on external relationship. And it can be very interesting because Bhakti yoga is the path of love, and in Bhakti yoga it's a path of devotion. That's just to put it there, and Prabhuji will explain it in such a beautiful way, and kind of will conclude the book with that, with Parabhakti. So we speak about love for God. We speak about developing a very important part of sādhanā bhakti is to serve the divinity. We worship deities, we offer our prayers, we try to surrender, we try to create our personal relationship with the divine. But Prabhuji begins here with something very interesting, that he say that love that Bhakti Yoga seeks does not depend on external relationship. And he writes, instead, it is the state of the soul. Far from being an interaction with another person, love is the perfume that emanates from our own presence, here and now. Bhakti is the purest and the most elevated love. It arises from the depths of consciousness and the peace and silence of meditation. When we experience this love, we discover that it is not an emotion or a feeling, but what is real within us. And I feel it is so inspiring because we often hear that God is love in so many ways, in so many paths. This is so beautiful with Prabhuji because there are so many beautiful songs and poems and stories and parables, but they all guide us to the same place, in our own heart. And this is what Prabhuji writes here, that he begins with that. It's just the beginning of this book, and he will present to us and expose all the paths of Bhakti Yoga and all different branches and practices and so many saints and sages, so many luminaries that walk this path. But he begins from where we already are, as he writes, and where we aspire to arrive, to our own heart. So we're seeking more than to love someone, even not God. We're seeking to reach a certain state of the soul. And all the practices that will follow will lead us to create the conditions to meditate. There is a beautiful poem, just a portion, that I feel very much reflects that. And it says, "Be still, my heart. Oh, be still, my heart. I know that you are God." And it's so beautiful because, as Prabhuji writes here, when we're able to still our heart, when we're able to find this peace and silence, to be in that state, then that mystery that Prabhuji calls love will manifest as the fragrance, as the divine perfume of our own presence. And I feel it so inspiring, and I feel it so beautiful that Prabhuji begins in a way from the end. As he wrote at the end of preface, I feel it so so very interconnected that when you walk on the path, more you work on the path, I paraphrase it, I don't remember exactly, but you begin to realize that everything begins and ends in you. Jai Prabhuji.